Jolanda, welcome back to Wisconsin, and thank you for giving us some time today in the studio to talk about bikes and your journey. Tell us first about your very first bicycle.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here in Wisconsin. My very first bike, that was, I think, a pink little bike, probably 20-inch wheels. And I don't remember it, but we have a photo from when I was riding it, and my mom told me that we were on a campsite next to a lake in Italy, and I was riding around on that bike, and I was riding towards the lake. It was downhill into the lake, and I didn't know how to brake or how to use the brakes. And I rode straight into that lake, and my mom could just catch me and save me before I went underwater. And so that was probably one of my first experiences on a bike.
First bike and first experience on a bike. So at what point did you first get exposed to racing bikes? Did you maybe learn that people did that, or did you go and attend a race? How did that happen?
Well, my family was always very active. My parents love nature. They love sports. They are very active themselves. My mom used to do gymnastics when she was young, and she did orienteering runs, and she did shooting. She did a lot of different sports and was always very active. She did horse riding. She did everything. And my dad, he was cycling. When he was young, like in his 20s, he was a professional cyclist. So they were both always very active. And when they had us kids, I have an older sister and a younger brother, they just took us along and did the same stuff that they did before, pretty much. So yeah, we spent a lot of time in the mountains, in the forests, hiking, swimming, skiing, snowboarding, cycling, just everything. Yeah, and I always loved to be outside. We loved it as a family, and we were just always very, very active. So that's how sport was always a part of my life, and being outdoor, being in the nature, I loved it so much, and that's how I spent pretty much all my holidays, all my life. And anytime that I wasn't in school, I was very likely to be outside.
Tell us about your first race.
Yeah, so then my first race, that was when I was 6 years old. And my dad was racing mountain bikes at that time. So he was a professional road cyclist when he was younger. And then when mountain biking started to be a thing, that was like in the 1988, around that time, that's when he started to do mountain bike racing, and he just did all these long marathons and cross country races, and just went to all these mountain bike races. And when we were born, my parents, they took us kids along, and we just happened to be there one day when there was a race for kids at the same place as there was a race for the grown-ups, for the adults. So that was a Swiss Cup race. And so the first race I ever did, it was in Rivera in Ticino, a Swiss Cup race, and I was 6 years old. It was in 1999. And so the Swiss Cups, the system is that from age 6 to 10, in fact from age 7 to 11, I think it is, but I was 1 year too young, but I could still race. I took part. But so from the first 4 years, you don't do a race with laps, you do a parkour, it's called. So you do tight corners, you ride over cars, you pick stuff up from the floor, you have to stand still, you have to go over what is it called?
Like a teeter-totter? Or a balance beam?
No, wooden, a piece of wood that flips.
Wow, okay.
I don't know how you call it. But so you have to do a lot of skill stuff on your bike, which I think is amazing, because there are some over-motivated parents that would push their kids to train, and so you can't, as a parent, you can't do anything. It's just skills, and you can never train too much skills. So I think it's a great system, and it introduces kids in a very playful way to cycling, and so that's what we did. So I also did lap races when I was 6 years old, but my very first one was this parkour thing. And I won. So that was great. Yeah.
First time, good experience.
Yeah, that was great. So I loved it from the first moment, and yeah, no one could spoil the party.
If we go forward then a few years, you decided that racing was a good thing. Perhaps it was that very first race. When did you really realize that this was going to be your sport and that you were really going to commit to racing at an elite level?
Yeah, so when I was 6 years old, it was really just because we were there and it was cool and it was fun and I liked it. But like these first 4 or 5 years that you had to do parkour, like this skills stuff, I got second place at probably 90% of the races because there was one girl who was better than me. So I was second place all the time. And then we finally could start lap racing when we were 10 years old. Mm-hmm. And I won. I won my first race there and I won throughout the year. And that was like finally my thing. I loved it so much. And I won a lot of races. I won 50 races from age 10 to junior ranks. Mm-hmm. So we had like at the end of the year when you won the series, you got to go on a camp for kids organized by Andy Saley. He ran the series and he was the national coach as well for mountain biking for the elite riders. So for us, it was so exciting to go there, and it was a camp with all the other kids who had won as well. So it was a really high level. Everyone was very skilled there and we had a lot of fun. We did really good riding there, and that was always like the goal for all these kids to win the camp at the end of the year. So out of 6 years, I won it 5 times. And I always went to these camps and I loved it. I loved it so much. And to me, it was always my dearest hobby. I never thought about it as like something that I would do as a profession. Not at all. For me, it was clear that I would go to university, or not even university, but for me, it was just clear I would have a job, I would work. Like, yeah, at a certain moment, it was clear, like, yeah, I would want to go to university. I want to study something. I even already had a flat, and I agreed with one of my best friends that we would live together in the flat. I was signed up for university. Everything was set, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And mountain biking was just always my dearest hobby. And then in 2012, when I was first year under 23, so under 23 is a category where you race 4 years together. So everyone from age 22 to age 18, you race together. And that's the first time that you are with 4 years together. Before that, the steps are always 2 years. Mm-hmm. So juniors, and before that, it's always 2 years. But then in the under 23, you're 4 years together. So you race people that are a lot stronger than you, a lot more experienced. And I think especially in that time, it makes a really big difference to have 3 years. That's when you are a teenager and when your whole body is changing so much. So 4 years is a big step. And that's like the first time you face all these other people that you've never raced before. And 2012 was the first year for me in that new category, and it's an Olympic year. 2012 was London Olympics, so I would say the level was high, and some people of the under 23 class, they were already part of the Olympic race, like they were racing the Olympics as under 23 riders. And yeah, that was my first year in that category, and that was also the year when I planned to take up my studies at the end of summer. But then my summer was exceptional. I became Swiss champion, European champion, and world champion in the first year. And after that, I got an offer from Giant for their racing team, for the World Cup team. And so I signed with them, and that's how I turned pro at age 18, age 19, yeah.
So up to this point, you really had a focus on mountain biking, but those who follow you today understand you actually race in several disciplines, which is not the norm. That's quite different for someone to race at the elite level and in multiple disciplines. So you went from mountain bike, and then you were introduced to some other forms of cycling. Which one was next in that progression?
Well, mountain biking was just always the most natural way to me, because that's what we did as kids. And my dad, he started to have this training group with some other kids where we would just go mountain biking, and road cycling and cyclocross was not very popular in our region, in our country as a whole. Like in Switzerland, it's everything is about mountain biking, cross country. So road cycling and cyclocross would just not be something that we would naturally think about very often. But my dad had a very open outlook to everything, and he came from the road and he knew cyclocross. So already when we were young kids, he already, like, if there was a road race somewhere close by, we would maybe go and do it, like not often, but maybe once or twice a year. So I was Swiss champion on the road in the under 19, like in the juniors class, and I did some cyclocross races, not a lot, but the main thing was just, it was just natural for me to do mountain biking most of the time, like pretty much all the time. And then when I got older, and in 2013, that was the first time ever that I raced internationally on the road. I did Gent-Wevelgem, I did some races in Belgium. That was with the Rabobank Giant team at that time. So that was very, very exciting for me, just because it was such an amazing team. We had Marianne Vos, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Anna van den Brecken, Annemiek van Vleuten, Lucinda Braan. We were Ellen van Dijk. We were all on that team, and it was just, I was starstruck. It was just amazing, and it felt like a dream, and it was so exciting for me to learn all these new things. It was very interesting, like the races, you have to think so much, there's so much going on. It was just so exciting for me, and I loved it so much. And at the same time, I knew that the thing that just makes me happy the most and that I enjoy the most is mountain biking. It's in the nature, you need skills, it's fast, it's fun, it's the flow, it's everything. And to me, mountain biking has always been what I love the most.
So you talked about road, mountain, and cyclocross. Tell us a little bit about downhill. Have you tried that at all?
Well, not really. Like until last year. Well, it was actually last summer. I was on a training camp in the Swiss Alps, and a friend of mine, she had a downhill bike, and I borrowed it for a couple weeks because I wanted to ride it, because I thought it was great for training, and that's what I did. And I still think it's so cool and so good. So that's when I first rode a downhill bike last summer, and that was just a very old bike that she had and that I was riding, and so it was fun. But then when I joined track, they gave me a session, a downhill bike, and that was amazing. Like when I rode that for the first time, I was mind blown. It was so cool. It's like just when you're on it, it's a feeling I've never had before on any other bike going down the hill. It just goes so straight and so fast, and you don't even have to think. It just goes and it finds the way. And yeah, the experience was amazing for me, and I think at the same time it's so good for training. To me, it like helps so much, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So this year I even did a race on a downhill bike. I didn't really plan on it, but I happened to be there. And it was the Tennessee National State Championships. And yeah, I happened to win. So now I'm Tennessee National State Champion. I'm not even sure if I really am there, because I'm not living there. But
That's
yeah,
great,
so
though.
I did do that.
Well, you're keeping many options open, all these new disciplines that you can try. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you've shown us some new skills in addition to all of the riding skills, and those are acting skills. So we have received so much feedback, positive feedback, about the Supercaliber commercial. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and a little bit about the commercial?
Yeah, I loved it. It was so fun to do. It was something completely new to me, acting, but I loved it. And I think even when I was a little kid, I loved it to be on stage and to be like little theaters, or when we had something at school going on, I was always probably the first one to jump on stage and should like just do a show or whatever. I love it, and I enjoyed that so much. And I think that's a bit my challenge in life in general. There's so many things that I love to do and that I would love to do. Like even just with cycling, I find it so exciting to race on the road, cross, downhill, mountain, everything. And I think that's a bit the challenge in my life, to really put the focus on one thing, because I think if I finally manage to put the focus just on one thing, I can be excellent in that instead of just being good at a lot of different things. So that's a bit my challenge, and that's really what I want to do for the future, and even just for next year. I really want to put the focus on one thing, which is mountain biking, and I want to be excellent at it.
So let's talk a little bit about that focus. Next year is an Olympic year. You've been to the Olympics before. So how will 2020 be different for your focus, as you just said, but also for your training? What will be different as you go into the Olympic year?
2020 will surely be a lot different for me than 2019. I will not race on the road at all. I will race a very, very small program in cyclocross. I will do world championships because they are in Switzerland. But other than that, I won't do much cyclocross at all. So my focus will clearly be on mountain biking, and I'm very happy about that. That's already one box ticked in my challenge of putting the focus on one thing. And I want to make it, I want to have the whole setup really be about mountain biking, and investing my energy in working on having the best material, having the best setup, having the best possible training that I can have. I want to spend as much time at home as I possibly can, because training at home is really what works the best for me. I know which trails to ride, I know which mountains to ride, like for what intensity I need to go where. I have a lot of good people to train with. My coach, that's my dad. He's at home, so that helps a lot too. So that's I feel like we've already a very good setup going into next year, and at the same time we did a lot of work this year. We invested a lot of time in really working towards the right setup. I have the best bike in the world. I have the Supercaliber, and we worked so much on that, like to really have everything fine-tuned and have everything ready. So I feel like we've done a lot of investment this year that will give us a big benefit next year.
Many people, of course, with your results, look up to you and look to you for advice. What advice do you have for people with mountain biking as to training or things they can work on?
Well, my advice, number one, is always to have fun, to enjoy what you're doing, to do it together with friends. So especially in mountain biking, I mean, it's a sport where you can ride hard and you can ride long, but at the same time you can talk. It's not like swimming where your head is underwater the whole time. So you can actually talk to other people. So I think you should like take that advantage and take your friends with you, like go for a ride together. You can stop, you can drink some water, you can talk, you can hang out. Like you hang out, and at the same time you're out in nature, you're moving, you're having the best time, and it's so much more enjoyable and so much more fun when you have other people with you. So take your friends, make it a fun experience. Ride your bike, and you will feel good, and it will just be the best. Like keep it fun.
So you have a clear focus for the new year, but you still have a few things yet to do this year. You're in Wisconsin to participate in the CX World Cup. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've never raced the World Cup here or any other cross race, so that is exciting. I've done cyclocross World Cups before, obviously, last year in Belgium and the year before, which is winter, cold, freezing. So I think this year is going to be a very different experience. And at the same time, for me, I come in from a very different approach. I have a different approach, I would say. Like last year and the year before when I raced in Belgium, I wanted to be fast. I trained a lot for it, and it was a goal for me to do well at these cyclocross World Cups in Belgium. And now I'm here in Waterloo, in Wisconsin, and I've just finished a whole summer of mountain biking. I've been racing every month since last December. I've been doing cyclocross road, mountain bike. It has been a very, very intense summer, and I'm just here, and I'm kind of here. I'm just here. I want to see what I can do. Like, I think my shape is still somewhere because I've done a lot of racing and training the last couple months. So yeah, I just kind of go with the flow. I'll see what's possible, whatever is possible, and whatever I can do, that's great. But at the same time, I'm just here for to have fun, to have a great weekend of racing. I think the track will be very exciting. Yeah, I want to do my best for sure, but I'm just kind of here in the flow, and I will just see what's gonna happen.